about the delay, and of course we're not seeing anything there. That's not good. Oh, here we go. All right. Okay. Well, has any one of you seen a solar eclipse before by any chance? Where was that? Okay, 1970, so you probably have not seen that one. Yes, I can remember in Germany growing up, I think I was still in elementary school, a neighbor like had a couple of kids over in his apartment, and we were looking through the kitchen window. I think he darkened some glass or something. So that's one of the main things you want to keep in mind. No DIYs to look directly at the sun. You need those official eclipse glasses, and they're rated. You don't want to risk your eyesight because, you know, if you look into the sun, any time that it's not totally blocked out by the moon, the ultraviolet radiation can really, you know, damage cells in your retina, and you may or may not totally recover from that. So you don't want to chance it. Okay, well, as an intro, I don't know if you've heard about the Crash Course series. Well, they do this for all kinds of subjects. They like neat little, you know, videos with somebody talking and a little bit of animation and stuff going on. But anyway, there's one, it's called Crash Course Astronomy, and there's a show about eclipses. I've just taken a few parts, I'm not going to show you the entire thing, and put those parts at appropriate places into my presentation. So let me go ahead and start out with that little intro, and it gives you a pretty good overview. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to click twice on that. Oops. I'm sorry. Oh, hang on a second. Something I did not consider. Here we go. Oh.
It's a coincidence of time and of space and of that. The coincidence is this. The sun is about...
I should probably use the volume in the room. Oh. Hang on, I'm figuring this out. Before I blast your ears off, there is a little volume thing right here. Just a little jack. Okay, that should do it. You stop this. Okay, I'm going to start this again. I apologize. This was a tiny little detail that I didn't get to. Okay.
The sun is about 400 times wider than the moon, and it's also, on average, about 400 times farther away. If you're a size of an object in the sky, it depends on how big it is, how far away it is. So these numbers being equal means the sun and the moon appear to be about the same size. And that's where another interesting thing comes in. Sometimes the moon passes directly through the sun. Doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, you get that. Or even better, you get the sun. You get an eclipse.
Okay. So just one person having seen a partial eclipse so far. How have you found out about this eclipse that's going to happen right here in the backyard? Yes. Okay, so yeah, I need to repeat that because it just picks up my voice. Yeah, so if you had a parent who was really excited and talked about that experience, because it's an awesome experience. So you definitely don't want to miss this. This is your best chance, and unless you have a lot of money and you can afford Eclipse cruises or traveling to Patagonia or some other place of the earth, then this is really your best chance to see an eclipse. And if you travel just a little bit north of the metro area, a total eclipse. So let's find out more about how you can actually do that. Get some practical advice. So this is actually about my only attempt so far to see a total solar eclipse. And I'm a pretty much regular person, so I don't have money to go to eclipse cruises or anything like that. So this was my first chance. Me and my husband, we had just come down here and started working for GPC. Back then, I think it was Decatur College, and then it changed to Dritter Perimeter College. I'm from Germany, so every summer before we had kids, we used to go to and spend some time with my family in Germany. Here's my dad, here's my sister, and this used to be my brother-in-law, but is not for a long time now. So, where were you like in 1999? So this was August 11th, 1999, and it fit right into our summer break, so we didn't have to miss any school for that. And we could stay at my father's place. And he, on the day of the eclipse, on the morning, we just drove up a little bit because his town is over there. We're actually at a castle ruin. There are lots of those. We're overlooking the Rhine Plain, and my father's town is somewhere there in the Rhine Plain. So we just drove a little bit up to this castle, and you can see all kinds of other people are there, gathered with eclipse glasses, and of course you have some nice German food. The stuffed pork stomach, which is typical for that region, sauerkraut. Also, well, the beer is not shown, but so we had a pretty good time, and as you can see, it started out sunny. This is a larger overview, and you may have seen, have you seen any news reports or read anything about the upcoming eclipse yet? Because sometimes, yes. A green, well, I'm not up on the moon thing, but we can Google that. Yeah, sometimes depending on, no, we were in a waning crescent phase. So I don't know if it's already getting into the new phase, but usually they depending on which month of the year, they call the full moon by different names, depending on the season. But yeah, last time I checked, I think we were in a waning crescent phase. Okay, so this is Europe, and this was the path of the eclipse, and this was my father's hometown, so smack dab. And as you may already be able to tell, the path of the total eclipse is very, very thin. This is a little bit more of a close-up here, and in the green circle, this is where my father's hometown is. And again, you can see this is not very wide. So here we're in southern Germany. Over here is Munich. Then here we have France, Switzerland, Austria, the Czech Republic. So it's basically what you're looking at. In America, these would be states. In the United States, these would be individual states. That's how small the countries are in Europe. Yes.
Approximately how many miles is the total eclipse?
How wide?
Yes, 200 miles.
75 miles. Yeah, I think it's about 115 kilometers. We'll get to that. Yeah, so it turned out, unfortunately, the German summer, we get summer rain since we're in that kind of climate zone. And also, when the moon moves in front of the sun, then that area gets less sunlight, so it cools down a little bit. And if you have already a fairly high humidity, then, you start getting drizzle or fog or whatever. So that's exactly what happened. We took a couple of pictures, well, just with a regular point-and-shoot camera. We didn't have anything fancy. Still don't have anything fancy. So this is sort of what it looked like before the totality. And you can see the disk of the moon blocking out part of the disk of the sun. And then during totality, well, we had cloud cover, so we couldn't really take any pictures. But we did have all the other experiences, except for seeing the total phase. And since we were looking into the Rhine plain, there are tons of little, cities. So we saw street signs or, commercial neon signs come on. Cars turned on their headlights because, it got really dark. And they pulled over. I don't know if they knew that the eclipse was about to happen. They were caught on the road. And then, well, some people who knew, they even launched fireworks. And in Germany, you can sort of launch fireworks. I mean, usually people do that New Year's Eve. That's like the big party, midnight, everybody starts setting off fireworks. But, this is kind of a special occasion. So, of course, there are fireworks on hand. Everyone cheered and toasted. And, of course, it's like, oh, my God, in the middle of the day. And, we could see all around us it was dark, except for like a light horizon at the edge. And it got a little bit cooler. So, we did get like that experience. But the thing that we missed, and that I'm still waiting, patiently waiting for, is this total phase. And of course, you can only see that if the sky's clear or not too cloudy. And I could kick myself because I was debating, okay, shall I go with my dad to this little castle, which is in the path of totality, or shall I hook up with my friend in Stuttgart? And, we used to study together physics when I started way back in Heidelberg, so I was still in touch with him. Well, it turns out he drove to some mountain near Stuttgart with a bunch of friends, and they saw this. And that was, maybe 70 miles away from me? I mean, I could really kick myself. If it's just I had like a 50-50 chance. Well, another thing you want to, let me first talk about the corona. Well, does anyone know what the word corona means in Latin? Crown. So it's actually pretty similar, so that's probably where the word came from. Well, the corona is sort of thin and wispy, but it's also super hot, and it extends far out into space. But because it's so thin and wispy, we usually don't see it, even with a sliver of the main face of the sun still visible. It's just way too much glare. So the only way to really see the corona is if you totally block the face of the sun. And this is also, where solar wind streams out into space. And I guess that picture is not so great, but if you're lucky, and maybe you will, you might even see some prominences. So they look like little reddish arcs that stream off of the surface. And the sun has a pretty active magnetic field. So basically, it's flinging all kinds of stuff out into space. And also that's what makes it so super hot, because, the particles that come off of the sun have electric charges. So they get accelerated by the magnetic field. So this is what I hope I'm going to see. And this is what I hope you all are going to be able to see. Because this might be the only time in your life that you have a chance to actually experience this. Well, back then, you want to look at graphs like this. So here we have the chance of how likely are we to see an eclipse. Here are the different locations. If you go through the path of the eclipse, here, it started in Land's End in Britain, and then Paris, Munich. So it sort of goes east. But unfortunately, that blue stuff here, no, wait a minute, the blue thing is the chance of actually seeing the eclipse. The red thing is the curve of the average cloud cover for that location at that time of year. So if you compare the two, so our location is sort of somewhere between Munich and Paris, let's say right here. So this is sort of where we topped out. And the prediction was that we would have a cloud cover. So we weren't in such a great place, but then again, it was cheap because I stayed for free. The person who took this picture, he's like the global eclipse guru. He has a website, MrEclipse.com. His name is Fred Espenach. He was already, he's like the dedicated NASA guy who keeps track of all the eclipses. He takes pictures, not just solar eclipses, lunar eclipses. I mean, you can Google him and you're going to be blasted with lots of information. Well, he, of course, was able to travel to Turkey. And he picked a spot where he had an over 80% chance of seeing the total eclipse. And the cloud cover being way, the prediction for it being way, way low. So let's see. Now we've been waiting and living our lives slow. So we're going to slow forward now. We had 4 pets at the beginning, 2 kids, then the pets passed away. We had new pets. Unfortunately, 3 of our parents passed away, and my dad, unfortunately, passed away several years ago. Our kids are now teenagers, and GPC has been turned into GSU. So, whoa, where has the time gone? We're almost here. So we're coming up on August 21st, 2017. Unfortunately, it's the first day of class. So, but I think it's pretty safe to say that there might be probably more science and STEM teachers that are calling in sick that day. You may want to, like, well, I don't know if anything can be done officially. I don't think any teacher, well, especially the STEM teachers, would mind if you're out sick that day. I mean, this is really a once-in-a-lifetime chance. And we have one math instructor or math professor here, Mrs. Emily Whaley, and she even tried to get the president of GSU to close the campus for that day so that all students and all faculty and all staff could attend or could, find their way north and see the total solar eclipse. So far, not so much. So, you just have to safely and judiciously take matters into your own hands. Not very. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to show this real quick. Turns out, my husband plays roller hockey, and one of his hockey buddies owns a bed and breakfast in Rabun County, which is in the northeastern tip of Georgia, and it happens to be in the path of totality. So as soon as my husband learned that this guy had this bed and breakfast, which was like several years ago, he said, wait a minute, we're going to make reservations at your place at that time, on that date. And of course, we had to wait for the books to open up. But we're all set. We're going to go there a day or so early, and we're going to stay a day longer because, we'll be swamped with visitors. I mean, the entire region will be swamped with visitors. Well, here's sort of a similar graph. We have the cloud cover, the predicted cloud cover, and I'm going to show you videos, but the eclipse is going to come in starting from the Pacific and then going through Oregon, then straight across the heartland of the United States. So we have Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, Missouri, and then into Tennessee, a little bit in Kentucky. I think that's even where the longest part of the eclipse will be. And then, but you can see the cloud cover sort of corresponds a little bit to the landscape, Of course, ocean, generate a lot of moisture. But here, we have the Rockies, And unfortunately, what do we have here? Our mountain range is out in the east, the Appalachians. And unfortunately, that's what happens to air, when it comes from the west and they're pushed up against the mountain and the mountain forces them up, it gets cooler, and then of course the moisture starts forming clouds. So anyway, as far as our spot goes, well, at least we improved by about 8%. It was 58% for our previous location. Now we're down to 50. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. Let's see. I wanted to, if you want to plan where you're going to be, go to this Google map by Javier, I don't know how to pronounce it, Jubier. It's an interactive Google map, and you can probably just type in, it's on, the link is on www.eclipse2017.org. But you can click on all the points, and I'm going to show you zoom out now, and it tells you exactly the information, right here at what time the eclipse will be, in what direction, how high up, when the overall eclipse starts, and you get lots of information. So let's see I'm zooming out here, if that's going to work. Okay. Yeah, so what I did, I kind of taped the screen while I was zooming out from this website. First the eclipse starts, so it's coming from the west, and it'll last about 2.5 minutes. So that's how fast the shadow moves across. And then the shadow will move off to the east, and hopefully you'll get to see that, that you get to see the shadow move, come towards you and then move off of you. Okay, now I'm starting to zoom out, so we can watch that for a little while and see actually where it's at. Okay, so at some point Atlanta will come in. We've got Clayton. This blue thing is the center of the path of totality. And you can see this is the edge of the path of totality. So here in Atlanta, we're just a little bit shy. And the thing is, if you just get into the edge of the path of totality, you will only see it very briefly. So the closer you are to the center line, the longer you will be able to experience the eclipse. Okay, so now we are zoomed out to the northeast. Okay, let me just click out of this. Okay, yeah, but this website is a great resource because you can click on any town, on any field, on any mountaintop, and it's going to give you that information exactly at what time the eclipse will start, when the totality will start, and when it will end. So this is really a good tool to have. Okay, well, just very briefly, see how much you know about eclipses. So we can just do the solar eclipse. Which object is being blocked? When the sun, okay, and which object does the blocking? It's the moon. And what phase does the moon have to be in? Well, the full moon, we see all of the day side of the moon, right? So would it be able to block the sun that way? Also, the full moon rises when the sun sets and sets when the sun rises. Would it be able to block the sun that way? Because it's on the opposite side of the earth. Yeah, so it really wouldn't. It has to be in the same part of the sky as the sun. And basically, it has to have almost hit the exact same spot in the sky. It would be a new moon. Yeah, that's right, because if it's anywhere crescent, then it's too much at an angle. Okay, and from where on Earth can you see a solar eclipse? Well, you have to be in the shadow of the moon. And we just saw how tiny it actually is. I mean, the total shadow of the moon is pretty tiny. And of course, you can see since the sun is a larger object, so if you're not exactly in the path of totality, and you, like if you're in Atlanta, you can still see the moon block out most of the sun. In fact, in Atlanta, it's going to be 97%, so that's still pretty dramatic, but you will not be able to see the total phase. And for how long? Yeah, we get 2.5 minutes, and depending on if the moon is a little bit closer in its orbit to the Earth, then it blocks out a little bit more for a little bit longer. So it can be all the way up to 7.5 minutes, but that's pretty much the extent to which you can see the total phase. Yeah, real brief for the, I'm not going to go over this in detail. Well, for the lunar eclipse, we already said it has to be a full moon, and the moon would have to pass through the Earth's shadow. I mean, I don't know if you remember the size relationship of how much larger the Earth is than the moon. And basically, the entire moon's surface has as much surface area as the continent of Africa. So it's pretty small, and it's also pretty far away. But the Earth has a much larger shadow. So the total phase of the moon, if you ever see a lunar eclipse, and you should be able to see many lunar eclipses because every single person on the night side can see the lunar eclipse because we're in the shadow. We're in Earth's shadow. So look for those in the news. That's also a pretty neat experience. You just have to stay up for a while. Yeah, just a very brief review of the lunar phases. We already talked about it a little bit. Well, basically the sun shines light on every object. So half of the object is lit up, it's the day side. The other half of the object that's turned away from the sun is the night side. So here we have the Earth moving along its orbit, and it's sort of like different snapshots, from like they're about 4 days or so in between. But as the Earth moves around the sun, the moon moves around the Earth. So this starts, in which kind of phase does it start? What is that phase here? That's the new moon, yeah, because the moon is, in between the sun and the Earth. And as you can see, half of the moon is lit up, half of the Earth is lit up, but for someone standing on the Earth looking at the moon, all you see, well, all you would see is the light, the night side that doesn't really reflect any light, but because it's also in the middle of the day, the sun's glare, and the scattering of the sunlight in our atmosphere, it's impossible to see the new moon. But then as the Earth moves, so after a few days, the moon moves around its orbit, so we can start seeing more and more of the day side of the moon until it's on the other side, and we see all of the day side. And then, of course, in the waning part, completing its orbit, we see less and less of the day side of the moon. So it goes from gibbous, quarter to crescent, and then we're back to new. Here's a pretty neat video that I wanted to show you. Well, I think we don't really have to watch the first one because we can imagine now how the moon orbits around the Earth and where the day and the night sides are. But this is a pretty neat video. It's sort of showing from the perspective of the Earth. Oh, this one actually comes right up. Cool. So you can see how quickly the Earth spins going to the new moon. There's actually a teeny tiny partial eclipse right there. Crescent, quarter, gibbous. And of course that's from the perspective of the Earth, full. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty neat simulation there. So now so that was pretty cool. Let me just show you the part again. Where the new moon whizzes past, and then we can stop at that. Okay, so this is already a waning crescent. Okay, that's the new moon. So that's sort of close to where we would potentially have an eclipse. Out of this. Of course, now the question is, we have a full moon and a new moon every month. Why don't we have eclipses every month? Well, there's another little snag. Yeah, you know how things in nature are usually not straightforward. Well, the same thing is with the way the moon orbits the Earth compared to with how the Earth orbits the sun. Here, the big blue sheet, the darker blue sheet, is the ecliptic plane, and that is essentially the plane in which the Earth orbits the sun. And that's pretty much also the plane in which all the other planets orbit the sun. However, the plane in which the moon orbits the Earth is tilted a little bit. So kind of like, you know, if this cardboard sheet were the plane in which the Earth orbits the sun, then the moon's orbit around the Earth would be tilted a little bit. So that actually means most of the time when the moon is new or full, the new moon is either passes in front of the sun while its shadow falls above the Earth or below the Earth, and the same with the full moon. Most of the time, the full moon passes underneath the Earth's shadow or it passes above the Earth's shadow. So no eclipses. Only twice a year will the moon pass through the intersection of the Earth's and the moon's orbits, and when it hits that intersection and it happens to be new or full, we'll have an eclipse. So these are the two conditions, and that's why they're so rare, because not only do we need a new or full moon, but it also has to happen when the moon passes through the ecliptic plane. Oh, that's right. We can listen to Phil Place. No, before we do that, let me show you just the solar animation. Okay, so yeah, so this is actually an animation that NASA made, and this is the exact lineup for the moon and the sun for our eclipse that is coming up in August. So here we see the top view. Oh, let me move the cursor out of the way. I'm blocking the Earth. I'm eclipsing the Earth. So you can see as the months progress, finally the moon is in a position where it passes through the Earth's plane and will cast a shadow. Let me just replay that. So we're starting with the top view, and the sun is on the left side. This is also to scale, so you can see how much smaller the moon is than the Earth, and you can also see, compared to their sizes, how far away they are. So it's really just the tip, the teeny tiny tip of the moon's shadow that is reaching the Earth. So that's what's going to happen August 21st, 2017. Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
It's not going to get too far out of that.
Well, okay. If you let's see, yeah, let me click on that once again. Just stop it right here. This circle right here that is like shaded, you know, half of it is light blue, the other half is a little bit darker. This would be the closest approach of the moon to the Earth, because, you know, the moon's orbit is a little bit elliptic. And as you will see, as it goes through its orbit, unfortunately, we don't get an eclipse with the moon at its closest approach to the Earth. We're getting an eclipse, I think it's like it's a little bit further away, but it's not so far away that we would not get a total phase. Okay, so. Okay, and now our friend Phil Plate. Sorry. Okay, this is where I'm going to have to double click. Okay.
Usually that shadow is here. If we're in eclipse, the shadow falls on the surface. In fact, there are two shadows, one inside the other. One is a narrow cone, to a point away from the moon. If you're anywhere physically inside this cone, the moon appears big enough to completely block the sun. That means the shadow is very dark. We call it the umbra, which is Latin for density. Outside of this deep umbral shadow is a wider cone, where if you're in it, the sun is only partially blocked. You can still see some of the sun past the moon. You're getting less light, and so you're technically shadow, but it's not quite as dark as the sun. This region is called the pen umbra. Pen in this case, the Latin means almost or near. When the umbra touches the Earth, you get a total solar eclipse. But what does that look like from the Earth? You're going to get a total solar eclipse right away. First, the edge of the eclipse in front of the sun, and we see a little dip in the sun's rim, its edge as seen from the Earth. That's the start of the pen umbra sweeping over. As the moon slowly moves, that dip grows, becoming a bite. The sun becomes a thick crescent, then a thin. As the sun becomes an ever thinner crescent, the sky gets dark. Then, finally, the moon's black disk completely covers the sun. The umbra sweeps over the location. And at that moment, the totality begins. You might think that this just means the sky gets dark and it's like night outside. The total eclipse is far more than that. That's because of the sun. And we'll cover in more detail in future episodes. The corona is the sun's atmosphere. It is really thin envelope of gas, stretching from the sun's surface into space for millions of kilometers. It's really faint and therefore usually completely overwhelmed by the intensely bright light of the sun. But when the moon blocks the sun's face, the corona becomes visible. It surrounds the sun, filaments and tendrils extending into the sky. Incredibly beautiful sight. I know many people who have said it's the most spectacular thing they have ever seen. And there's more. The moon's edge isn't smooth. There are craters and other depressions. Craters right at the moon's edge allow sunlight to stream past. We see these as bright patches around the sun, called Lahaise beads, because they were first described by English astronomer Francis Taylor in 1836. Because the moon and sun are very nearly the same apparent size, totality is the longest it can last is only about 7 or 8 minutes. That's how long it takes the umbra to move over one spot on the Earth. When totality ends, and the moon starts to move off of the sun's face. For a moment, just a single spot of the sun is unblocked, glowing fiercely on one side of the moon. Sometimes you can get a circle of light around the moon's surface, and together with the bright spot, it looks like a celestial wedding ring. In fact, this is called the diamond ring. Then, inexorably, the moon pulls away from the sun, and the order of events is reversed. The umbra is gone, but there's still the penumbral shadow. The sun shows a thin crescent, then a thick one, then a different side, and then a ball. The umbral shadow of the moon is pretty small here. So a total eclipse is a local event. If you're too far north and south, you don't get a total eclipse, you only get a partial. Which is still cool, but lacks the beauty.
Gonna stop that. Nope. So you definitely want to get that mystique. Okay. And if you haven't already started thinking about that, you may want to start thinking about this really soon. I think I already mentioned that there are probably already thousands of people having plans in place to come to Georgia or any other city along the path, any other region. But, you know, they're going to collect here in Atlanta in the metro area. Even though there are tons of places, you know, you can go out on a country road, you can stand on the side of a field, on a mountain. Well, you want to make sure you're not, you know, you have clear sky and not stand under trees or something. There's lots of space to view the eclipse from, but you want to get there. You want to be able to get there, and there are going to be thousands of people on the road that want to get there too. So at least starting out, it's going to be really, really crowded. Well, here are some impressions from around the world. This was an eclipse in Africa. Here, I think this was in Indonesia. That was last year, 2016. Then Japan, Egypt. So, you know, you can watch them from all over the world. And most of the time, you'll probably be able to watch them from the ocean because most of the Earth is covered with water. And that's why there are so many eclipse cruises that, you know.
What time of day?
Well, that depends. That depends on the time zone you're in. Here, it's going to be, okay, the maximum is going to be at 2:36 p.m.
After the sun will be hot.
Yes, and that's actually pretty good because then we have, if the skies are clear, we have a short distance to the atmosphere. So, you know, any kind of features we'll be able to see better than people who see it early in the morning, like on the West Coast or out in the ocean. So, let's see. Yeah, this is pretty cool little demo. It actually shows, it loops around a little bit. You know, it sort of rewinds. But this is how small the shadow is of the moon passing in front of the Earth. Okay, he's rewinding it. So it's not going back and forth. It's just, you know, the tape is so short that he's been playing it back and forth. But that was the eclipse that hit Patagonia. You know, and people who have travel budget or professional astronomers and eclipse photographers, of course, they have the money and they'll go through lengthy preparations to be able to view the eclipse. So that's what it looks like from space, the actual shadow of the moon passing across the Earth. Okay. Okay, here's an animation. Actually, the guy that did that animation, Mr. Sinclair, he made that animation in 2003. So this is more like a graphic version. And you see that little black dot coming in from the left. Let's see, there it is. That's the total shadow of the moon. And only people in the path that this tiny dot takes will be able to see the total phase. We're so close here, and you'll be able to see partial solar eclipses probably later in your life, but we're practically in walking distance of the, oh, shut up, Phil. Oh, too many windows open. Okay, yeah, I don't know if that's going to load, but this video is kind of cute because it's from a guy in the Faroe Islands. Hang on, I gotta. There we go. Well, I'm not going to show the entire thing, but you can tell he's a local. He's been waiting for this his entire life. And they're coming up on... You hear mostly the other people, and he's like... Oh! Come on. Come on, look up. Oh! See the Bailey speed there? Oh! Oh! He's getting all choked up there. Yeah, you can tell he's excited because, you know. Well, Well, the inconsistency with the corona is probably because there's haze and there are clouds in the area. So whenever it's thinner, you can see it better, and when the clouds get thicker, sort of knocked it a little bit down. See, fast forward just a little bit. No, wait, I think it's. I love that guy. We're getting close to the end here. Yeah, there was one thing, I think, one spot that I missed. I try to remember the times when he was saying something. Well, he's probably an introvert, because I mean, there are tapes of people, that I've tried to look through, and they comment and stuff like that. So you probably want to think about not just where you're going to be, but also who you're going to be with, because how some people tend to spoil things just a little bit. Unfortunately, I'll be with my teenage daughter, so she might just spoil it for me just a little bit. There's a little bit of an attitude going on. So really quickly, this is the same kind of graph for our eclipse coming up. Here is a similar kind of map. This is the metro region of Atlanta. It's kind of hard to see, but any routes that are going northeast will get you to the path of the eclipse. So, and all these routes will be clogged. See here we have 85, we have 475 with 575, here's 78. So all these routes will be clogged. I mean, you could get a head start and maybe book a room close or somewhere in the countryside and then just, be able to drive up on country roads. You definitely want to plan ahead, make sure you have everything you need and who you're with, where you'll be with. It's also going to be in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the day, so it's going to be, screaming hot. You'll be outside. You may not be anywhere close to air conditioning. So these are all things to keep in mind. Let's just link here. There's also an app that you can download. Yeah, it helps you keep track of where you could be possibly, and it also tells you how long the eclipse is going to be and things like that. So it's like a basic app. So yeah, here's a video showing how the umbra will move across Georgia. Okay, let's just maximize that real quick. So the yellow thing is the path of the total eclipse. They have that for each state, so you can go to this website and you can get it for each state. Oh. So this is a close-up. So you see Toccoa. They only point out Toccoa there. But of course, you can also travel to, if you know folks in South Carolina or North Carolina, Tennessee, Of course, they may already have people staying with them. So like I said, you might have to go to plan B or C if you're just now starting to plan for the total solar eclipse. Let's see. Close these windows. Okay. Yeah, I know you can't really see this, but this shows the cities in Georgia. They're all smaller cities. We have Blue Ridge, Blairsville, Hiawassee, Dillard, Clayton, Tiger, Helen, Pine Mountain, Tallulah Falls, and Toccoa. Well, it turns out where we're going in Rabun, they already are planning events. You know, I've seen they have like a website. There will be speakers, but there will also be like festivals and parties. So even if the eclipse, you know, if we miss the total phase, at least, you know, we'll have some entertainment. Okay, and as you can see, at the edge, cities that are further closer to the edge, they might only have 36 seconds, you know, whereas Clayton or Dillard, which are pretty much to the center, they have 2.5 minutes. So you do want to make sure that you get as close as you can to the center line. Oh, that was silly. I'm still in the middle of my presentation. Come on. Okay. Getting back to my slideshow. And I apologize. I just clicked too many things here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is the location of Decatur campus. As you can see, this is the eastern path of 285 going around. So we're right at the intersection of I-20 and 285 down here. We will still see anywhere in the metro area, we will still get 97% eclipse. So this is the 97% eclipse line. This is the 98% partial eclipse line. So it'll still be pretty dramatic, but you won't be able to see any of the corona. But there'll probably be telescopes set up everywhere. You have the science museums like Telus Science Museum, Fernbank Science Museum, colleges, Agnes Scott. Actually, I haven't even checked if GSU has anything set up. So the start of the partial eclipse will be, of course, this is universal time, 1:06 p.m., the maximum about 2:37 p.m., and then at 3:02, that's when the disk of the moon will have finally moved off of the sun. Okay, and now we're coming to the eclipse classes, and after the presentation, you're welcome to take one or two, please not the entire stack. Make sure they're certified. They have to have this ISO rating on it. See if this one does. Well, they're CE certified, so they do have to be specifically certified for eclipses because sometimes people think they can use welder's glasses, but the welding arc has particular wavelengths in it, you know, particular UV component, and the welding shield is made specifically for that. But the sun has a lot more ultraviolet component in its spectrum. There's like the full spectrum, so the welder's glasses will not protect you from these other components. So you really have to make sure that either ISO, these are CE, it's a lowercase c and e, that they're specifically made to protect your eyes from the sun. You can also use them, you know, to look at the sun when it's not being eclipsed. But the thing is, as you will see when you go outside with them, you can only see the sun through them. You can see nothing else. If you look anywhere else, pitch black. So don't use anything other. You know, some people may put, like burn a piece of glass, you know, to get the soot to build up, or use a CD or something. But if you can see anything through it when you're not looking at the sun, you know, then your eyes will be damaged. And again, even welder's glasses, they don't block all the harmful components. So you have to make sure that you use eclipse glasses for this. And again, you know, you can go, there are tons of online sources. eclipseglasses.com, rainbowsymphony.com, or go to the science museums. They may be handing them out too. Something that I wanted to quickly show, you can also enjoy the eclipse even if you don't have eclipse glasses. You just don't want to look directly into the sun. And actually all you need is a couple of pieces of paper. I'll try to make a hole in this. So this is called like the pinhole projector. All you need, one sheet of paper with a tiny hole, and the rest of the sheet basically casts a shadow onto a second sheet of paper so you can see the image of the sun. You might have to play around with it a little bit. I can see a dot coming through from the projector light. You have to angle it. You can play around with it a little bit. If you move it away, you get a larger image. If you move it up close, you'll get a smaller but brighter image. So this would be the very basic setup. You could fancy it up a little bit by using some sort of a stand. So and you should be able to angle it so that the sun, you get the best positioning with respect to the sun. Or since you can have a little bit of wind going on, you can mount this on a piece of cardboard, and of course also poke a hole into the cardboard. See, I'm not going to do this now, but then you could stand there like this, which is a little bit more convenient. Maybe you could even come up with a holder for the pinhole. Now, what this guy did, and it's actually explained in the video right here, he put his binoculars on a tripod and then had a screen like that and just cut out one hole for one of the binocular lenses. And then he positioned another sheet of paper, a little distance away, and that way you can, while the eclipse is going on, you can watch that screen and you can see the image of the sun just as nice. You can see the totality just as nice, but it's not going to be so bright that it's going to damage your eyes. In fact, I'm going to try to rig something up like that and see if I can, videotape it. That's another thing. If you do have binoculars or a small telescope, before you look at the sun, because that's actually going to increase the amount of light that gets into your eyes, get specific solar filters. They sell solar filters for eclipse, for binoculars and telescopes, and you can just push them on, and you want to make sure that they're nice and tight. But you can definitely use binoculars and a small telescope or a spotting scope, but make sure you have a solar filter. Well, as far as videography and photography goes, this might be your only chance, and this is coming from the pros. The best advice is don't. If this is your first total solar eclipse, you will be gobsmacked. You heard that guy. You think you're ready for it, but I mean, if you're like experiencing it with all your senses, all around you, all bets are off. And then you don't want to have to miss the whole thing because your setting on the camera is messed up. So just soak in the experience. There'll be tons of professional photos of the same eclipse that you watched that you can look at later. But if you really want to give it a shot, go to this page. Also, it's eclipse.aas for American Astronomical Society.org. And of course, then you can click through a couple of pages. But well, they recommend you can use a smartphone, but get a telelens, and of course you need a filter and a tripod. And you definitely, this is a picture of the full moon, by the way. This is not a picture of the total phase, but you definitely want to practice. But another neat thing that you could do, put your video camera on a tripod or rest it somewhere and then just point it at the crowd you're with. And then you can capture everybody's and your own reaction to the whole thing. And that might be like a fun, low-key thing, that you'll cherish and your kids and grandkids might cherish. This is the word of advice on the traffic situation. This is actually the sheet that all states where the path of totality goes through, which they get. So this is announced as a planned special event for which there has been no recent precedent in the U.S. So this is a heads up to the Georgia DOT. It's a feat of nature and not man-made. It's an event with many different events across the country. And in fact, if you go to this website here, nationaleclipse.com/events.html, you can find a list of everything that's going on, and maybe things that you might find, hey, yeah, I want to join this festival, or I want to go to this university. I mean, there are many groups that are actually having activities, so there's something for everybody, unless you want to strike out on your own. And it's an act of nature that is not a disaster. Because, you know, remember ages and ages ago when people didn't really know what it was, and they saw this once in their lifetimes. I mean, they were like, you know, they really thought this is a really, really bad omen. So make sure all your traffic apps are in place. Check with the Georgia Department of Transportation, because they may have special traffic routing plans. So don't count on streets being open and available the way you're used to. So you definitely want to check the traffic situation, because this is one place you don't want to be during the total eclipse, okay? So you don't want to be stuck on some sort of large highway. So all the big highways going out. Say again? Yeah, I-285, yeah, and anything, all the others. Well, supposedly, you know, they want to get it fixed in June. Well, give them a couple of months. I sure hope that they're going to have that fixed by the eclipse, because the city is going to be overrun with tourists in cars, because, you know, that's really the only way you can get around, or not. So, yeah, definitely check the traffic. Make sure your GPS works. Bring, you know, if you don't already have that in the car, bring a first aid kit. Study traffic apps, weather apps, eclipse apps. Have sun protection, bug protection, hydration, because we don't know, you know. Bring a sense of humor. You might be stuck in something like that, maybe on the way back, you know, but then you'll be sitting there for hours. So you want to be ready. Make sure your gas tank is full, your tires, your battery's strong. You want to be in really good shape. So be prepared, and then bring patience and a sense of humor, and be flexible. Because that's another thing. I mean, we're going to be stuck at the bed and breakfast. But if you're out on country roads and you see that, you know, the skies are overcast and you have all your apps going on, you might be able to relocate in time to get a piece of sky with a clear view. So you want to keep all these things in mind. So here's some further preparation resources that I've collected, and I'm going to, hopefully the recording turns out okay. So I'll send out the link through the college, and then you can, you know, pause on those places. I mean, pretty much all the major organizations, astronomical associations are getting in on this. Well, of course, NASA. Then there's the American Astronomical Society. Then there's Eclipse 2017. I think this is where Fred Espenach and the guy who had that interactive Google map, where they're plugged in. Then there's the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. They have more of an education, so outreach. So if you're interested in a little bit of science and learning a little bit more about the scientific background, or a scientific activity that you can do during the eclipse, then probably the Astronomical Society of the Pacific link would be the best. Then there's the great American Eclipse.com. So the problem is not finding information, but sort of it's drinking out of a fire hose. You know, that's kind of, and then being able to find the useful information. So yeah, this is the interactive Google map again. From here, you can find Georgia Eclipse communities, and you can look up what they have planned. They may also have plans, you know, for visitors, designated parking, your best approach, so you might want to check there too. Climate and weather predictions, you can find here on the Eclipsophile site. A blog with monthly updates coming up on the event is on this site, so there's tons and tons of stuff out there. Well, what if you miss it? Can happen too. Or what if you made the best preparations and we have one of our thunderstorm downpours, flooding, flash flood and everything? Well, 2024 is the next one, so that's only about 7 years from from this year. You'd have to travel a little bit further, but maybe you can already look up if you know friends, in any of those states. Preferably the ones, with the clear skies are probably a better bet. Then we have in 2045, one that goes more across the south. It's almost a parallel path to what we're having, but it goes more across the south. Then, 2052, that might already be a long shot for me, because, yeah. I hope I'm still around, but, trying to be healthy. So we'll see, but that's the next one that goes through southern Georgia. So, if you don't have money, if you don't know many people, at least try to stay in shape. Look both ways before you cross the street. Eat healthy, exercise. You may have another shot then. Okay, so this pretty much wraps up my presentation. Yeah, let me turn on the lights, and you can come over here, get some cookies and punch, and grab some of the glasses. Yeah, maybe 2, or if you have family members, but don't grab a whole handful. I mean, just maybe 5 at the most. If you have your